Greetings, my friends, and welcome back to the Home Slice. We are here at my chopped up agapanthus hedge here at the bonfire pit where I hang with my kids every Saturday, take a little Sabbath rest, and take a break from electronic communication, and we just chill. We're here because I lost all my filming locations because we keep juggling my kids around to different rooms in our tiny cottage. So one by one, I just keep losing other filming locations. And sorry, I just trimmed these things. They'll look nice in a few weeks, but they take over everything. And so I have to like chop them all the way back to where they're ugly. And then eventually this will turn to more like that. It's like beautiful. These are agapanthus plants. I think they come from Australia. They look like fireworks blowing up when the flowers come out. They're really cool. They're also impossible to kill, so don't plant them unless you're ready to have them forever. We're back with another episode of Sebenza versus everything. I've taken the Chris Reeve Sebenza and we're facing it off against other categories to see if it is indeed the best hollow grind, if it is indeed the best luxury knife, to see if this MagnaCut edition does indeed have some of the ultimate MagnaCut. So it won the MagnaCut episode against the Spyderco Sage. It lost the hollow grind episode against a quiet carry waypoint, which is quite a bit thinner. And it lost the luxury against a custom Benchmade 761 that I have. And now we are at this last final episode. So it's lost 2, and if it wins 2, I'm gonna sort of call it a win for the Sebenza. But this episode, we're facing off against what, in my mind, I was like, oh, this would probably be my ultimate EDC. Now that you're all hanging on pins and needles, what is it? I just take a moment to torture you and mention that I have a new merchandise website up. I just put together a drop shipping platform, talked about it a ton last episode, so I'll keep it short here. But I've redone my logo and I've got a whole bunch of shirts. I'll put a link in the description. I am really bad at Patreon. I don't like getting money kind of like for nothing-ish and then like promoting and like giving those people special packages that everybody else doesn't get. I really am more comfortable like when people get things directly. Like if they give me some money, like they get a t-shirt. So I've developed this merchandise store and like tried to like get them really good. So this is sort of my way of like, hey, if you want to support the channel, get a t-shirt and I'll get a little bit of markup on it. So that's kind of cool. Back to the subject of today's video. The Sebenza this time has been a wonderful EDC. The action is terrible on this Sebenza, and I think on most. I don't think Chris Reeve really cares about action as much as he cares about precision. But this time the Sebenza, which is pretty awesome in almost every other way, to be honest, is going up against a Spyderco Kapara. I'm so stoked about this, guys. Wanted the Spyderco Kapara for quite a long time. They look really similar, right? They're like similar edge length. It's a grayed out sort of aesthetic. This one I got on eBay, and the guy has a lynch clip on it. I've never had one before, so we'll see how I like it. It looks a little big to me, but it feels pretty comfy to rest your hand against. So this Spyderco Kapara happens to be the DLT trading website exclusive in CPM 20 CV. Spyderco Kapara is just a lot of edge rammed right back to the handle, still got the forward grip, super comfy for a folding knife. Fully radius, like rounded out handles so they cup your hand really well. Lots of edge, full flat grind. It's just all those things that are good about a Spyderco in one beautiful package. So I'm really excited about this. I will save my thoughts for the end. To be honest, I can't remember exactly what edge I put on this. I was just trying to find it on my phone. I believe it's a cloudy finish. It may be a 1200 grit Sharpall. I wanted to give that M390 a chance to shine, and sometimes those cloudy finishes I find, I guess it's 20 CV, not technically M390. It's made in a different place. But sometimes those M390 variants, they take a good cloudy edge, I find at times. The Chris Reeves knife Sebenza has a fully coarse 400 grit finish off of an Atoma stone, so on a diamond stone, so it should be nice and bitey. I wanted to try a coarse edge on the Sebenza before I finish this series. So we'll get into carry. I'll compare these two beauties, and I will be back in 2 weeks to deliver the verdict. What's up, guys? Back after 2 weeks, and we're in the middle of spring here in New Zealand, and we've had these nights that have been super warm, humid, muggy. So I got dressed in my room this morning and put on my shorts. Again, don't have a film location, so came out here to the campfire spot, and I was like, you know what? It's freezing. We had this like cold snap. Not actually freezing. There's dew on the grass, but it's not quite frozen. It's not quite to 0 degrees Celsius, which is how we measure things here on the bottom side of the world, which is all relative, you realize. We could be the top side of the world here. Anyway, I just figured maybe I'll actually start a fire because I'm freezing. I'll be right back with the last piece, and then we'll get into the review. Alright, just reoriented a little bit so that you guys can be here at the fire with me and enjoy the vibes. Really sorry for the droning whine of the water pump. That is the downside of this filming location. You can let me know in the comments if it really bothers you, and I can consider trying to find another place to film. Anyway, we're back to it, and this is the last episode of my Sebenza versus Everything series, which, if you've not followed along, I did not actually face off the Sebenza against everything that I own because I'm carrying each thing for a week, and because that didn't seem interesting, but I thought it would be interesting to run a series where I pitted the Sebenza against like the best of the new things that I have gotten lately. Spyderco Kapara is absolutely phenomenal, and we'll get there. I just finished carrying this. I really loved it. But before we get there, we'll revisit the Sebenza, because this series I've been saying, okay, we'll consider it a win for the Sebenza if it wins. It's really cold. If it wins more than half of the episodes of the tournament, okay? And I faced it off against this Benchmade that I've had forever, that it's a really nice titanium luxury knife, and I ended up being like, you know what, if it's the question like which is a better luxury knife, I do like this Benchmade better as a luxury knife. And so it ended up not succeeding, not winning against the Benchmade 761 in that roll category. I didn't have any problem with the Sebenza. I wasn't like, oh, this is a bad knife, but I was like, oh, it's not like, for me, the best luxury knife that I could buy. I think that that's a category that a lot of people think of Sebenzas as. I think that because of the price, they sort of fall in that luxury category. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong there, to your assumption. But then I faced it off against the Quiet Carry Waypoint to face off like which is the best hollow grind. And because the Quiet Carry Waypoint is about 30% thinner, it ended up winning that just by a hair. They're both, like, the Sebenza is really slicey for how tough and rugged it is. Like, I really like the Sebenza. But the Quiet Carry Waypoint, just that little bit less blade thickness does, I think, come through a little bit in slicing ability. And so here we are. It has to win this one, or it's sort of like does not win the gauntlet. So what I've pitched it as this time is, what is your best sort of all-around EDC? And I've always looked at the Spyderco Kapara and thought, that might be my ideal, like, all-around EDC. That might be the one. And it was really good. But before we get there, I'll just say, I think I experienced a thing which I'll call Sebenza slump. And I think a lot of guys who end up buying a Sebenza, I'm just gonna rotate because the fires feel so good, but like I'm like cooking over here and I'm like not over there. The Sebenza is like, it's got such a reputation. It's like when you go to a movie, right? It's like when you have Star Wars episodes 4, 5, and 6, A New Hope through Return of the Jedi. And they've been around for decades, and so the reputation of them is just monumental, you know? It's crazy, crazy big, the expectation that we have on them. And then you go to the theater when George Lucas comes out with episode 1, you know? I can't remember what it's called. The Phantom Menace. Oh, wow. Coming back from the annals, from the archives of my mind there. A lot of people watched it and they're like, it's not that good. Jar Jar Binks is annoying. And, you know, like, the acting is stilted. And, okay, some of those things have a measure of truth to them, for sure. But if that video had come out in its time frame, independent of the other films, I do have to wonder, like, would the reception that it got be a bit different? Because when something has a huge reputation and you expect all of this stuff of it, sometimes the actual follow-through is like a bit of a letdown because nothing can live up to how good it was supposed to be in your mind. Does that make sense? Sorry, the result of having an ambient fire is that I'm just going to be a bit of a rotisserie chicken for this video. So I'm sorry. You can let me know if the fire is distracting and annoying you, or if you're enjoying it. I'm enjoying the heat, but I can't take it too long on one side because I got quite close. So I think that something like this happens with the Chris Reeve knives Sebenza. The Sebenza's been around forever, like Star Wars. And it's built up this huge reputation, and some people say it's the best thing that's ever been made. And some people say, oh, it's not that great. Generally, it's considered a classic. Anyway, I think that a similar thing happens with the Chris Reeve Sebenza because it has such a huge reputation going before it that people expect when they get it that they're just gonna hold it in their hand and it's gonna like change their lives. And what's funny is that throughout the past, there's people who have felt that way. You know, there's people who carry this knife their whole lives and they're like, this thing is absolutely amazing. But I think that there's other people who experience this phenomenon that I will refer to as Sebenza slump. And it happens when you save up the money and you buy one of these, and then you have it for, you know, a few weeks, and at first you're like, wow, this is really cool, it's so solid, and all this stuff. And then after a couple weeks, a little bit of dirt starts to get in the pivot, it starts to be a little bit hard to open, it hasn't broken in yet, and you start looking at how simple the thing is and thinking about how much money you paid and the experiences you thought you were gonna have. Sorry, I've had to reorient again because the fire's just attacking the camera with smoke. Hopefully the video turns out okay. This is a real experiment here, guys. They start comparing it to the experiences they assumed they would have, and they start to realize that reality falls short to the expectations that were in place. And so they're like, oh, I don't know. And then there's some buyer's remorse of some kind. There's some like, man, I could have spent $600 on fill in the blank, you know, another knife, or, you know, maybe a gun. Like maybe you could have afforded an inexpensive gun at the pawn shop for that, or maybe, you know, whatever other things you're considering in life. Maybe like you could have put it toward a Traeger grill or something like that. I don't know what you guys are into, but anyway, you end up with this thing, and what at first you were like, this is amazing, I get it, it's so robust, it's so thick, and for a period of time you look at it and you're like, maybe it wasn't worth it. And I do think that I experienced some Sebenza slump in this series. You know, I think in the first one, it's against a Spyderco Sage, and everything about it is so clean and minimal and tough and awesome, and I was just like, yeah, this thing rocks. And then as I'm going along, I end up kind of looking at it and being like, oh, was it worth all that money? And you sort of have your doubts. But then I think if you keep one of these long enough, you come to this point where you come back around a little bit. You're like, no, actually, what if the point was the rugged durability? What if the point was the story of the thing? And what if it didn't have to be the best at everything to be a totally worthwhile thing? And that's, I think, where I have started and gone and come back to on the Sebenza. So that's sort of my final thoughts on the Sebenza. I think if you expect it to be absolutely everything, you will experience Sebenza slump. And if you sell it in the middle of your Sebenza slump, you know, might write it off forever, or you might come back 6 years later after trying a bunch of stuff and be like, actually, I just want a simplistic rugged work knife, and buy another one. And that's kind of what I did. I bought a small Sebenza for a project I was doing years ago and enjoyed it, but I was like, oh, the money's too much, and sold it off. And so this is my first large Sebenza that I've ever had, and it's the first one that I've ever carried extensively. And I sort of came back around. And I don't know if I'll keep it forever, because I don't know if the vibe of it lines up perfectly to sort of me and my taste and my carry style. But I suppose that's not the point of the series. The point of the series is to check out like this excellent item that has such a story and such a history, and to sort of like represent that well and experience that myself. And in that sense, I think the Sebenza has been a total success. Now I have to decide here on camera whether it is a success in this episode and whether it has actually won its place in the series, because I faced it off against the Spyderco Kapara. Holy cow, guys! Holy cow, Alistair Phillips. This thing is amazing. Okay, Spyderco Kapara. First off, I bought this version not because I love 20CV so much better than S30V. I think 20CV can be a little more temperamental, and S30V can be a little more straightforward, like you know what to expect. But I mainly got it because of these handles. I think I was looking at all the options of handles. I actually like this G10, this smoothed out G10, a little bit better than the micarta handles that are on the market right now. It's rock solid. It's beautifully sculpted. It's really subtle. Like the lines on it that come through are really subtle. And it sort of has that metal knife vibe, which I actually really like. I also am considering I may dye it, but I like it better than the micarta options available. I trusted that it would have just a hair more grip than the carbon fiber handle. There's nothing wrong with the carbon fiber handle. I just have a weird history with carbon fiber. I get knives in it and they feel too fancy to use, and then I don't use them, and then I don't like them, and it ends up being nothing about the design. It's just that for some reason the expense of the material, it just doesn't click with me very well. So I got this, you know, primarily because I really love the handle. I also love, by the way, the big back spacer. I've been realizing I enjoy enclosed backs more, and the Kapara has a back spacer that fills the spot that if you come to the rear grip, right where your hand pressure sits, it spreads that out, and I really enjoyed that a lot. The Kapara is phenomenal. I think in some way I may possibly have found my all-time, like, keep forever, maybe, stainless Spyderco, because this has the amount of edge that I want it to have, and it carries around the size that I want it to carry. Spydercos get a little bit wide in the pocket, but if you look at it next to the Sebenza, it's like, it's gunning for that same amount of real estate. The tip is sticking out significantly more, but there's nothing else really that is significantly sticking out a lot more. And so the carry size of a Sebenza is quite good, and Phillips has done a wonderful job at making this knife an extremely compact carry size, given the amount of blade and the forward choil and the Spyderco effect that you've got going on here. Very, very well done. I love compression locks. At first I was like trying to hold the knife and push the compression lock and it felt a little bit awkward. And I realized that you've kind of just got to sandwich your thumb and forefinger on this piece, and that's where a lot of your grip comes from. And that's enough to hold on to. And you can get the compression lock actuated in that way. And once I did that, like I was like, oh yeah, this compression lock is super easy to use. It's intuitive. I really like it. Other things, there is 3 grip positions on this knife, and they all actually performed their intended purpose pretty near perfectly. I really enjoyed that. So there's your forward grip right here, and I really like that for light work, like opening boxes and stuff like that, where you need to be able to control where that tip is. If you grab it in the forward position, then the edge is swept back and you can kind of do sweeping push cuts, and that's really a lot of utility to that, in my opinion. The other position, because these are fully rounded scales, I like to pinch here whenever I'm doing food prep. This is my position. It's like pinch gripping a chef knife, but I like that pocket knives have actually a little bit more beef. This one is rounded up the sides, so you can nest your fingers around and pinch grip there. My legs are like roasting on that side. Really good for this like food prep position. And the back part of it sort of nests into your palm, and it was really comfortable to do food prep with. And when you grab it like this in the food prep position, I like the tip to be down, and indeed the tip is down. Isn't that cool? Look at that. Tip up, tip down. What a cool design. It's because of this sweep right here. Love that. The third thing that I like, aside from the oversized bolts, it has like Sebenza size bolts, almost. Not quite, but I enjoyed they did oversized bolts. The third grip position that I really like is that if you come back, if you see this little knob there, there's room for you to put 2 fingers behind it, 2 fingers behind it, 2 fingers in front of it, and you got to really secure all the way back grip. When you do that, it's raked downward really a lot. And when I'm actually doing food prep with a pocket knife, it's hard because you don't have any finger clearance. And so you end up trying to like roll cut stuff and your fingers are hitting the board, or you're holding it like this and you gotta tilt your wrist quite a lot to get the tip down to pull through stuff, which isn't the end of the world if you're not doing like really compressive, like high compression foods like squash or carrot or whatever. But if you do have some more resistant foods, it is quite nice if you don't have to bend your wrist. It looks like I'm bending my wrist, but you don't have to bend your wrist quite so much to get the blade down to the cutting board. You can just grab it in this position, in the Kapara, and you just pull cut. And it's a really comfortable position for sliding, pulling cuts. It doesn't look that way because my arm's all like this because I'm trying to show you for the video. I guess you can probably see down here because I got the fire in the frame. Anyway, I clearly don't know what I'm doing in this video. So, 3 distinct grip positions. They all work really well. Loved the Spyderco Kapara. It feels robust enough for everyday use. It's kind of smooth and classy. It's small for a Spyderco, but it still has a forward grip. The forward grip doesn't have an insane amount of jimping, which I do actually kind of like. And all things considered, Spyderco Kapara was amazing. Oh, I didn't speak to the edges that I put on these. I think I put a cloudy finish on it. I do remember on the Sebenza this time, I carried it with a 400 grit Atoma stone coarse edge. And MagnaCut had much more long-lasting aggression with that edge. And I think that that's just kind of goes for some of your more durable, tough, ductile steels, is if you want the aggression to last on them, you kind of got to go toothy, I think, as a general rule. It's not going to be quite as smooth of a cutter, like sliding through stuff, but you can just continue to get a lot of life out of the draw cut action on a knife that's done that way. Really pleased with the edge retention on both the 20CV MagnaCut. There was not really a clear winner, but I was pleased with the performance of this 20CV. It did not fall into the category of some of the M390 that I've had, which upon further testing seems to wear out a little bit quick. So I'm not too worried about a really bum heat treatment there. So the question, which one is the winner? And I realized that I made a tactical error in that I didn't specify, like, are we talking the best EDC as in which of these knives, if I add them to the 20 knives I already have, will I carry more than, or which is the best improvement to my present amount of knives? Because I think in that case, the Spyderco Kapara is definitely the best improvement to the knives that I presently have, because it is a slicey, full flat grind with very, very good versatility in a carry size and a blade length that has been hard for me to find. It's been hard for me to find that combination of things. Usually things have a long blade and it's really thick and it doesn't cut well, or it's really big in the pocket. So it does hit probably the improvement that I'm looking for. But if we're talking about which of these two knives, if I got rid of everything, would be like the best solo carry, like a knife that I could do everything with, like for the rest of my life. And if included in that was it needs to not break and need to be replaced, I would definitely choose the Sebenza over this one in that regard, because the Sebenza is just a thicker, more robust tip. And that's kind of like what it comes down to, is like, I like for one of my knives to be a work knife that like the tip could be abused a little bit. And in terms of that, I do think the Kapara is not quite there on the ultimate work knife tip thickness, and the Sebenza is. And just the overall design, construction, simplicity, precision of the Sebenza probably would lean me in that direction if I was simplifying down and I'm like, you know what, I'm just gonna carry one knife. So here we are. I don't know. It's like this would be a clear winner if we swing it one way. This would be a clear winner if we swing it the other way. But I'm thinking back to how I framed this. What's the ultimate EDC? And what are like most people kind of asking when they say that? I think they're asking like, what's the one knife you would carry? Okay, take that for what it's worth. We'll have to narrow the result down to like, okay, which knife, if you just had one knife, would you choose? And I would, in this case, choose a Sebenza for that purpose. So to be honest, yeah, like this might last longer in my knife collection. We'll see. But the Sebenza is a crazy and wonderful knife. I think that Chris Reeve did a real piece of artistry, and I've really enjoyed it. So thank you for tuning into this series. You guys are like the best viewers in the world. I will be back at you next week with another video, and I hope you enjoyed this series and enjoyed watching me be a rotisserie chicken with this fire. Y'all take care. There's another video if you want to check it out. If you've been on YouTube too long, you should probably get off. And you can like or subscribe to me if you want, but honestly, I don't care that much. You guys make intentional decisions with your life. Peace out from the home slice.